Jesus is like, oh shit, is Rubio talking about me? Let me bend over and tie my sandal up so nobody sees my face.
Welcome to the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here is your host, your guide, your shining beacon of liberty, Mark Claire.
All right, gang, welcome on back. This is indeed, as you heard from the man with the nice radio voice, the Lions of Liberty podcast, episode number 180, and that means you can find the show notes for everything we talk about, which might just be the GOP debate, over at lionsofliberty.com/180. And hey, if you want to support our website, you can do it by supporting our sponsors. You can do it by shopping at libertymaniacs.com for all your Liberty gear. You can use the discount code Lions of Liberty to get 10% off your entire order, or do all your shopping through Amazon.com through our link, which you can find at lionsofliberty.com/Amazon. It costs you nothing extra to buy really anything on the planet because Amazon has everything. And it gets us a little kickback, helps us expand this operation, helps us keep doing these debate reaction shows because, yes, indeedy, it is another GOP debate tonight. And we watched it one. This one actually featured no Donald Trump for the first time, so that's interesting. And we got Rand Paul back in the debate. But before we talk about it, I'm going to first bring in my Liberty associates, starting with this time, due to a recent rearrangement in my room in the Lions of Liberty studios, to my right, Mr. Brian McWilliams.
Well, I'm typically to your right, being right most often. Am I a little bit more right than you or left than you? I don't know. I have no idea.
Oh, you're definitely more right than me.
All right. Well, there you go.
I don't know. I have no basis. Right. I have no basis for that statement, but I'm just going to say
it works for where we're at right now. By the way, you forgot to mention what we're drinking.
I didn't forget. I was going to get there.
Okay. Well, hey, I'm just saying.
Because as new listeners may not know yet, but our old listeners will, we cannot watch these debates and talk about them without a couple adult beverages because we are all, of course, very, very of age. Very of age. So we are going to have a few, and I'm just sipping on it. I'm taking it pretty easy. I'm basically drinking apple juice with alcohol in it, also known as Strongbow. And, yeah, it's delicious. It's a nice way to get through the debate. Brian, however, had a tougher experience with the debate tonight, so he's going a little harder. What you got?
I'm going tough, but I'm drinking my Crown Royal Rye again.
Going tough.
In honor of Ted Cruz.
Out of a Charlie Brown glass, by the way.
That's right. Yeah, I know. The Camp Snoopy collection, by the way. I think it was available at gas stations back in the 70s.
Yes. Those are vintage glasses, by the way.
Before we get too into the debate, I just want to mention one thing that is hilarious. There has been a person following around Canadian Ted Cruz with a sign accusing him of liking Nickelback.
It's true.
And I believe this man is a hero. He's the hero this campaign needs.
Well, that's not... I don't know if that's worse than the debate for Ted Cruz this week. It's been a rough week for Ted Cruz, but we'll get into that. I've also got a couple other regular characters from these shows here with us. We're going to start with... how about we start with JB, since he was on time for this call? JB in Philadelphia, JB Lubin. What's up, man?
Nothing much. Just recovering from that debate as usual, trying to get my senses together. Rattled a bit, but I think I'll be ready to go.
Did you play our GOP debate drinking game at all?
No, I just drink whiskey throughout, I can't.
Throughout every day, regardless of if there's
pretty much.
Debate
I'm just
or
constantly drinking whiskey as I go through my day.
Well, that's the same thing as if you follow the debate drinking game, because if you follow our debate drinking game rules, you pretty much don't stop drinking.
You're probably dead. Your liquor's exploded.
Yeah.
And by the way, shame on me. I took out we had a rule for the last several GOP debate drinking games, every one, in fact, mentioning the Gang of Eight bill and Marco Rubio, and it never seemed to come up, so I took it out for this debate, and of course, there was about 10 solid minutes. So I guess, you're welcome in a way because you'd literally just be dead on the floor.
That would have been the one.
Full of your vomit.
That Gang of Eight drink would have been the one that put you all over the edge.
Without a doubt.
And, of course, we're going to bring in the man, the myth, the legend, the godfather of Lions of Liberty, Mr. Howie Snowden from Leesburg, PA. What's up, man? Leesburg,
hey,
PA.
Mark.
Leesburg, VA. Sorry. It's been a long day.
PA, close enough. Hey, good to have Rand back tonight, though, huh?
Absolutely. And first of all, wait, I don't think I got JB's type of whiskey. I know that he's been drinking whiskey, so let me just reverse course for a second. What kind of whiskey are you drinking over there, JB?
I am drinking Tomatin 12, a Highland single malt.
All right. I have not heard of that. I will
Speyside or...
add it to the Rolodex.
It looks like a straight Highland. It's pretty cheap, but it's decent. I don't even know if I could recommend it. I hope they're not listening right now because we need sponsors, but...
honestly,
for the price,
cheap and decent is an endorsement. From
cheap
my
and
world,
decent.
So.
I will call the Tomatin 12.
And Howie, what about you? What are you chug-a-lugging over there?
Well, it's been a long day for me, so I'm drinking some coffee with the good portion of Jameson's Irish whiskey poured in there.
Okay.
Don't you have to
That's
get up
acceptable.
in 4 hours to go to work, and you're drinking coffee? Are you just not going to sleep? You're just powering through. You can record the debate, watch it again, and then go to work.
I don't really sleep that much.
He's going to listen to this show as soon as it's done recording.
Oh, I always do. Before I share it on Facebook, I have to
Before
make
I
sure
even
it
edit it, I'm going to send you the raw file to listen to as you wane to sleep for an hour or two.
I have to make sure things don't get too crazy before I share it when we're drinking and bullshitting about this stuff, you know?
All right, well, speaking of drinking and bullshitting, hey, let's do that. First of all, I don't know if anybody else watched it. Am I the only one that watched the undercard debate?
In America?
Probably, yeah.
Maybe.
In the United States, am I the only one that watched the undercard debate?
Why would you do that to yourself?
Because I'm dedicated to liberty and advancing liberty, even if it means listening to Rick Santorum.
And he's a good friend of Jim Gilmore.
And you know what? The reason I mention it is, because Rick Santorum actually had a good point in that debate when I tuned in. He was going on a super fiery rant about how it's BS that... Why am I censoring ourselves? I'm putting the E on this. It's bullshit that the media gets to label certain candidates as quote-unquote undercard and decide based on polls with very narrow margins of error. Some they're going to call main event and some they're going to call undercard. It diminishes other candidates, and there's just no reason for it, and it's nonsense. And I was sitting there nodding my head, thinking, "Wow, there's something I agree with Rick Santorum on," because there's nothing else.
As true as that might be, Mark. I mean, I don't think these poll numbers are accurate. He's polling at 0% in Iowa, 0% New Hampshire, 0% in South Carolina.
He addressed that too. He said they don't put his names on polls, but then they still put him as like 0% because they asked for the reporting numbers. So that was part of what he was going on about. He's like, this is nonsense. Like they don't even put my name on some of the polls, then they report it as 0%. And if they really do that, I haven't verified his statements yet, but obviously that is worthy of being pissed
I
about.
want my name on polls and show up at 0%.
Yeah, I mean, I got 0% too.
They don't have to list me. I just like to be listed, in the 0% listing.
Yeah, list the rest of America at 0%.
Like Brian McWilliams. I'd be like, huh?
Well, I think it brings up a good point, but I can't be 100% on board on it because there's just too many people running for the Republican nomination. Even in the main event, there's too many people to have a reasonable debate. Like a debate should really be just two people.
Here's an idea: split it up a couple nights a week. Split up 2 nights, and don't call it main and upper and lower. Call it like. Debate
Royal
A,
Rumble.
debate B, and do like random pairings, or take a couple people from the quote unquote top tier, couple lower tier people, put them all in there, and let them talk about ideas, and forget about polling. There's ways you can divide it up without necessarily taking all these polls and calling some people undercard and calling
marginalizing candidates.
guys,
I guess you could say that.
I want to see Jim Gilmore versus Jeb Bush. That's what I want to see.
You guys, none of them talk about ideas though, besides Rand. It's just a bunch of talking points, propaganda, grandstanding.
This is true.
Lies. I don't think it's going to benefit anybody doing anything different.
Sure. I mean more in principle, but in the reality of the situation, it's not really going to change much for us. Really, the only thing that changes things for us is whether Rand is in or not. And to be honest, whether Trump is in or not does change things. But I got to say, his absence was not really missed. It was kind of refreshing. Even though he's been, in a large part, the most entertaining part of the debates, I didn't miss him. And it actually felt like it was a more civil conversation to me. Did you guys feel the same way?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the level of discourse was a lot higher without Trump being there. And the level of just knowledge about basic politics, basic law, the way that the government works, the actual regulations that are put in place. Without Trump being there to kind of just make these broad statements, they actually had to concentrate more on the real political theory, the real actions that have been going on in government and what could possibly be done rather than just saying, we'll build a giant wall.
Well, Ted Cruz wants to tear down the blend wall.
Yeah, you know what? I missed that. I was driving over here. I did not know what that means.
Something about mixing ethanol with gas and how much they're allowed to do that. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on this, and I never want to be an expert.
I actually do know a little bit about this.
Oh, now you're the expert.
I'll fill you in because I wrote an article actually saying that Ted Cruz is right in this regard.
Oh no!
And that is basically what he's talking about is the ethanol subsidies. There's a mandatory blend that you have to do, which uses the ethanol from corn, and this being Iowa, that's a big topic there because all these farmers get subsidies. So the government mandates that they put in like a certain amount, like 20% of this corn-based ethanol into the gasoline, and there's no really good reason for it. It doesn't help anything. It costs a shit ton of money to do.
No, it helps something. It helps corn growers that want subsidies in Iowa.
Exactly. That's all it does. But it makes the gas more expensive, and ethanol costs a shit ton to make. And it drives the prices of corn up, which, of course, farmers love. So it's just all horse shit. So he's actually right in that regard.
And I also think ethanol's not very good for gasoline engines too.
No, and it's not a good pollutant.
I've heard
either.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a bad pollutant. It's not. It's like worse than gasoline. You're a man of science, JB. Tell us more.
Well, I'm a biologist, so
corn's a thing that has biology.
My expertise isn't in, I guess, combustion fuels, but
hey, science is science.
I've heard that ethanol-based fuels do cause damage to the engine. It causes more wear and tear. It lowers the longevity of an engine when there's ethanol in the gasoline. Which is why I think they limit it to 10% or something like that.
Just enough to get the subsidies, but not quite enough to ruin your engine.
Do islands not feel like they're just shaking down the rest of the country, to support them?
I think they're fully all about. Yeah, we are, because they came to the governor Terry Branstad. This is towards the end of the debate, and they talked about how he's a 6-term governor, which just blows my mind. And then I realized why. It's because he was going after Cruz, saying he's owned by big oil. Well, in Iowa, that's code for he doesn't want to give us ethanol subsidies.
Right.
So and I guess they keep electing him because he's probably a big ethanol guy. So he keeps sending the federal corn money their way. Boom.
Or how about even a bigger picture? The fact that Iowa and New Hampshire do not represent America at all. Not the Republican Party, not the Democratic Party. It's such a small minority of such weird special interests.
Me and Brian talked about this.
It's crazy that they. Oh, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to echo your point. Why don't we all have the election on the same day? Why do we wait for some states to tell us what they think, and then we let that influence what the rest of us think, and then, by the time you get to the last 20 states, it doesn't even matter, because everyone else has dropped out because their poll number, they didn't do well in the first few, and that means everything, so it makes no sense at all.
Because it becomes the media story. Whoever wins the first couple, they get the boost and the coverage in the press, and we're all told they're the winners, they've got it. And that's what the people go with. Crazy.
Crazy's right.
The whole thing's crazy. All right, so let's. Why don't we do this? Why don't we just go down the list of these guys tonight, and each of us can just talk about each of them. How about
Should we save the best for last?
Maybe, or maybe we save the best for first. I guess it's not really saving in that.
Maybe we'll put them in the middle, keep people involved, then they can decide whether or not to turn it off or not.
We're not even going to say who or what that is, but all right. Why don't we just start with the man who I have found to honestly be the most annoying guy in either side of this, in the upper, lower,
I'm excited
Democrat, Republican. I cannot stand Marco Rubio.
More than Chris Christie?
Wow. More than Chris Christie.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
You're
Same
welcome.
here. He's way worse than Chris Christie.
I know Chris Christie has not grown on me in the sense that I enjoy his anything he says, but he's a cartoonish character, at least to me. He's this sort of fake Jersey mob boss who just wants to get things done because he was the governor and not a senator. And senators don't do nothings. He's funny to me. I can find entertainment in him. I do not find entertainment in Marco Rubio. I just want him off my TV. I want him gone. Everybody else, I don't agree with any of their policies besides Rand at all, really at any level. But none of them just scream "get off my TV" to me like Marco Rubio.
Though you know what, Christie playing the 9/11 card when he was during his closing statement really grinds my gears.
Well, I will
entirely predictable.
Oh well, we'll get back to Chris Christie. But let me just say with Marco Rubio, we're going to talk about this a little bit in the live blog. It was a little weird how he was being so nice to Rand tonight, because they were really going at it in other debates. And tonight, Rubio was like, I really respect Rand. He's a man that says what he means and means what he says. And
I'll say this about him: the guy believes what he says.
Yeah,
that's code for this guy's a kook. But hey, at least he's
But you know what? He said it a couple other times where they were, it was complimentary in various ways. So I was like, wow. Which my own personal theory I voiced was that Rubio is going to have a sniper on the roof. And probably was going to kill Rand later that night. So he's like, what do I got to lose?
Well,
I think it's as simple as they need to take down Cruz. It's, the three of them are competing for the
everybody else vote. The not Trump, not Cruz vote.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
The non-establishment senator, the young senator shaking things up.
God, non-establishment. What a joke.
I will say that I'm incredibly sick of Rubio's pandering time and time again to the religious crowd. God himself is rolling his eyes.
Oh, yeah. That's another thing.
Rubio's saying.
Yeah, he is the worst offender of that. He basically, I think they mentioned some Time article that referred to him as the GOP's savior, and he said
God.
No, I'd like to correct that headline. There is only one savior, and his name is Jesus, and we are good friends. And so vote for me.
Wait.
Jesus is oh shit, is Rubio talking about me? Let me bend over and tie my sandal up so nobody sees my face.
Did you guys know that Rubio used to be a Mormon?
What?
I
did not know that.
He's been like 3 different sects of Christianity, and he still goes to like all the churches. I actually wrote the article on Rubio, which I will link to the show notes. Fine, all right, something to link to. I wrote a whole article just breaking down his positions, and I'll end the spoiler alert. He's not very pro liberty on anything, but I will still link to that so you can find out for yourself just why. But yeah, no, he's been like one of the things he's chastised for is like, you know, switching religions and like being associated with all these weird church leaders and, you know, hopping through different sects of Christianity. And he was a Mormon once, then he was a Baptist. And yeah, it's never really clear what he actually is.
Well,
he tries to say he's all of them.
If he started as a Mormon, he's a polygamist by nature. So he's just being a religious polygamist.
I guess so.
Didn't he start as Catholic?
A religionist.
A religionist.
Well,
I think he might. Yeah, it's confusing.
He's Cuban, right? So probably.
Yeah, background-wise, he was probably Catholic.
Yeah, first he was Cuban and Catholic, and then he was Mormon, and then he was a Baptist, and then some other stuff happened, and now he's running for president.
Wouldn't it be great if he got up to heaven eventually, and he got to the gates, and then God was like, I hate Cubans. Get out of here. That'd be a bitter irony for Marco.
You can skip between religious sects. That's cool. But Cuba?
No, thanks.
Please.
Get back on your raft.
Maybe Cubans just have to show up with cigars, and then they're in. If not, tough luck.
No cigar? All right. So we're going to move on from...
Wait, before we go, am I the only one who noticed that Rubio basically said out front he's willing to shit all over the First Amendment just to get at those darn Muslims?
Yes,
in this country.
Right. Yeah, we need to talk about that.
The First Amendment, the Fourth Amendment. I mean, all the amendments are pretty much irrelevant as long as you can get the Muslims. Right?
Yeah, that was. I agree.
He was like, shut down churches, shut down mosques, shut down men's locker rooms where Muslims hang out, shut down everybody, shut down Arby's. I saw a couple Muslims.
We're going to shut down diners.
Shut down diners. I saw them meeting there once.
It's hard enough to get a good breakfast.
I'm like, Rubio, those were Sikhs. They were Sikhs. Leave Denny's alone.
Well, what's so crazy about that, too, is it's like, okay, you can't converge because, he like transitioned from, where they meet is where this talk happens and this talk leads inevitably to violence. It's like if you talk about something and it happens. Like anybody that owns a gun, if they talk about shooting the gun now, okay, that's violence. So now you're going to ban everybody from congregating that has guns, too? It's an insane on its base.
You know what else leads to violence? Threatening to bomb the Middle East. So
it doesn't help.
Yeah.
That can also lead to violence. But
every time they say, like, well, we need to keep America safe from terrorists. Well, you know what? Then just let us defend ourselves. Stop trying to pass gun control. Just, hey, but like, we're not scared. We're not afraid. Stop trying to make us.
Yeah, Howie.
We can take care of ourselves if you just leave us be.
Dude, I want to be at Howie's house when the Red Dawn scenario goes down. Because Howie's not afraid of nothing. He's got the pit bull. He's got the arms, I presume. I don't want to, disclose anything on the air here, but I'm confident that he's well prepared. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
All right, so we got one down.
All right, Rubio.
Who's
done.
next? Who's next?
Maybe we'll rank these guys at the end. That's probably impossible, though.
That's going to take
All right,
forever.
let's move on
I was going to ask who said ISIS the most times, too, and that's also
Let's move on to my favorite Jersey boy, Chris Christie. What'd you guys think of Chris Christie's performance tonight? Should I just do this fake Tony Danza, half Christie voice the rest of the night? Or what do you think?
Hey, I know you guys don't like this, but I like that he focuses on Hillary and not tearing down the other Republicans because she's the biggest threat that we face. She's so much worse than anybody on that stage.
She is, but don't you think that Bernie's going to win Iowa and New Hampshire? I think that's what you said. So,
I do.
Aren't they going to have egg on their face when they've been talking about Hillary for 6 months, and now Bernie's like, but they didn't have a plan to defeat me.
How you became count on count?
I was just thinking that. I was like, that sounded a little bit like the
states that we're going to win.
All that they're all going to say when that happens is like, even better. He's a socialist. This is even easier than if Hillary had won.
That is what their answer would be, actually.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
But Howie, isn't it a problem, though, that all Chris Christie does? You can ask Chris Christie any question, and it will come back to two things: either ISIS or terrorism or Hillary Clinton.
9/11, but that's all in the same category.
All the same terrorism blanket. Yeah, it's all under the same umbrella. That's the two things. It drives me fucking insane. That's why I hate Chris Christie, because every single question, it's like, Chris, what do you think about the economy? I think that the economy is ruined by Hillary Clinton. Okay, great. Thanks a lot, jerk off. That really helped.
My Christie's definitely better. I'm just putting it out there. Yours sounds like Bernie dying.
I'm trying to sound more like he actually sounds, though. He has a more of a higher voice. He's like, I don't know. I'll practice it. Next time, guys, tune in for the next GOP Debate recap when I have absolutely nailed Chris Christie.
If you're invited back.
If he's invited back.
2 thumbs down for Chris Christie.
2 thumbs down.
He did have a new song today when he was asked a question about what federal program would he remove to help balance the budget. this moron said Planned Parenthood, which I don't even know is even 1/100th% of the federal budget.
Exactly.
He was like, is there anything the government shouldn't do? He's like, I'll tell you something. I'll tell you about Planned Parenthood. And I was like, I mean, yeah, I agree in principle the government shouldn't fund Planned Parenthood. That should come from private people and maybe states or whatever. Definitely not the federal government. But come on. That's your answer. That's the only thing you can come up with?
The budget
It's a nothing part of the budget.
No,
but these morons eat it up. Did you hear them going crazy?
Oh, yeah.
Woo! Yeah.
Well, they eat up a lot of that shit. Like, it's like he takes this page of the book. Like, if you've seen "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou," there's this mayor character called like Pappy, and all Pappy says, he goes out, he goes, "I'm gonna take my broom, I'm gonna brush them out, and we're gonna rock out in Washington, and we're gonna get them going." And that's like Chris Christie. He took the cliches out of this guy's mouth and just started spouting them on stage, and people are clapping like idiot seals.
It goes over, and I think that's why Rand was doing all his abortion thing. And it's like, hey, I'm not running for anything. Iowans, you're idiots. What? I can't believe how they just eat it up.
Iowans, you're idiots. I don't think he quite said that.
Slap it on a bumper sticker.
Except for the two that I know who are very nice, good people. Besides them.
I'm sure they
If only Trump was here, he'd be like, Iowans are fantastic people. But they're idiots.
Or if they don't vote for him, they'd be like, they're not that great of a state. You know, they're never really that good. I mean, ethanol, it's not good gas.
I can't wait.
Cars.
I hope he gets like third in Iowa or something or whatever. I hope he doesn't win, so he can say stuff like that. Well, hey, it's Iowa. You know, come on. Like, who takes Iowa seriously? I mean, great people. See, even we can't avoid talking about Donald Trump sometimes.
Yeah. Hey, at the end of the show, I want to hear everybody's who they think will be the top three.
No, we will do our Iowa predictions at the end. Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll get there. Don't worry. So, anything else to say about Christie?
No. He had one good line about Clinton.
I'm going to try to say good things about people sometimes. So I will say that Chris Christie does entertain me as a TV character, not as someone I want to see as president.
I can't get past him. He pisses me off too much.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see him on like a sitcom, but not in any position of power over my life. So there's that. All right, moving on. Let's move on to the man with two last names, Mr. John Ellis Bush, the notorious J.E.B. Jeb Bush. Thoughts on Jeb? He was kind of.
I was going to let Jeb B talk about him.
Oh yeah, we got it.
Jeb B. Lubin.
That's the J stands for Jeb, right?
Yeah, it's JB. The J stands for Jeb, right?
It certainly does.
Jeb Bush Lubin?
Jeb Bernard Lubin over here.
I really can't say much on Jeb this debate because I feel like he didn't really get a chance to say anything at all. Am I the only one who feels like he's been pretty marginalized at this point? Like
he talks, but he. Oh, okay, keep going.
Well, yeah, he does say some things, but nothing that struck me as being very impactful. At least nothing I can remember at this moment, though. I had a few adult beverages right now. If anyone can fill in the blanks here.
Well, the only memorable moment for me for Jeb is when he and Rubio were having that. No, you're a flip flopper. No, I know, but you're a flip flopper too. And for like 5 minutes, just telling each other how they're both flip floppers, and both of them basically admitting it. And like that's their argument against each other.
That was awesome.
I think they kind of like blew each other up with two. They had bazookas aimed at each other and both shot them at the same time, and they're both.
Well, Ted Cruz got in there too, and then it was Ted Cruz the flip flopper. Everybody was flip flopping. It was great. But I will say I agree with JB. I was trying to think I made a note to myself that Jeb is basically just totally irrelevant. You know, it's like he doesn't matter when he's talking. It's like, it does not matter. He talks about expanding the military. That's his big talking point. He loves talking about the military and the vets. I did agree with him that the VA is jacked up. That's one of the.
That's too easy, though. Everyone knows the VA.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like, come on.
I agree, but it's the only one that I remember addressing the fact. So that was 1 point. So good job, Jeb, about talking about the VA. Otherwise, who cares? You're completely irrelevant. Drop out.
Howie, thoughts on Jeb?
Oh, hey, well, right before the debate on the O'Reilly factor, they're talking about, what does Jeb need to do to, break out during this? And, all the other candidates, and they get to Rand Paul, and they're like, well, he has no chance at all. He should just drop out. Well, why is he even running?
I mean, that's just such bias if you can say that Rand is irrelevant, but Jeb is not. Either say they're both not, or say they both are, because they're in the same territory, to be honest.
Exactly. But, I
think Rand has a better ground game and more actual support than Jeb. So there.
Really, every time Jeb talked, I just wish that Trump was there to rib him.
I wish that Trump was there to say, "Hey, Jeb, fantastic guy, fantastic man, right here. Total idiot and pussy. Cannot be your president."
Jeb, go sit in the pussy room and please don't talk anymore during the debate.
That's what he says every debate. He always hypes him up as a nice guy, then just says, "But really, come on, total idiot, worst."
And
I love Trump. Okay. I love Trump cutting down Jeb. I love him cutting down Cruz. That's about what I missed him for. But I mean, Jab's just same old.
Yeah,
same
but we can
old.
do that too. So
I mean, his mother even said he shouldn't be president. I mean, do we
did
need
she really say that?
Yeah, she's like, I think our families had done enough. There's other people out there.
She's like,
Barbara said that?
yeah, Barbara. I'm sure. Mark, find the video. That
she's
link
like,
it to this.
she's like, I'm seeing my family name just get sullied. Can we just stop being president and being the
I think she's since walked it back, but
oh yeah, she's probably going to say she was. I'll look for the video and
Chad, we only told you
Maybe
it's
post it.
superpowers to keep you from being beat up. Is it just me, or is he getting vastly grayer as this debate has gone on?
he's aging like a president during the nomination process.
Seriously, his hair was like silvery tonight.
Oh, by the way, he said that the campaign has just begun. By the way,
I think he looks kind of like Teddy Ruxpin.
it has been about 8 months, Jeb. So
He's like Teddy Roosevelt, and Teddy Ruxpin had a baby. That's what he looks like.
wow.
Yeah.
Because he's cute, and he's got the glasses and the hair.
All right, that seems like a good time to move on. All right, we said we'd stick him in the middle, so I'm gonna say my personal favorite for last, and I'll reveal.
Last, we still have like 3 more.
I'm not talking about that favorite.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, here he is. Here's my actual favorite. I mean, come on, he's the guy we all agree with the most, and it is Rand Paul. And I do think that this was probably Rand's best debate. He had a good coming out party like 2 debates ago, then he wasn't in the debate, but to me seemed like he was actually taken seriously by the moderators. He was asked questions that were actually relevant to him, as Brian was excited about, as I was. He was asked about freaking criminal justice reform, which I swear I saw that guy giving that question. Really good question by the YouTube fella, and I was like, oh my god, they're going to give this to like Kasich or something. And they actually gave the criminal justice reform question to Rand Paul, and he knocked it out of the park, talking about the drug war and how minorities are unfairly targeted in this and in our legal system overall. And he thought he nailed that one.
I was weeping tears of joy when that happened. Literally, they were streaming down my face. I had a hard time live because my fingers were getting all sticky with snot and tear juice. But no, it's amazing. He gave a great answer. He went into body cameras. He went into the war on drugs. He went into unfair prosecution of minorities when it comes to the war on drugs. He went into the prison system. He just absolutely murdered it.
Nailed it.
Fantastic job. And that got a massive responsibility. I think not just from his supporters, but other people as well.
The crowd was loving him tonight.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
I definitely noticed that. He was getting a lot of support from the crowd.
I think that's definitely an indication of the fact that they've been touting how much support they have in Iowa. And I mean, obviously, I mean, who knows how much that audience is actually representative of the greater support overall, but they definitely had a lot of Rand fans in the crowd ahead of time.
Hey, the university is still in session there this time, and millennials, this is your one chance to redeem yourselves in my eyes.
Yeah.
You go out there and you vote for Rand, or you're dead to me.
A whole generation is at stake, guys, in Howie's
That's
eyes.
right.
So
That's right.
And it's only the Iowans. The Iowans are going to speak for all millennials here. So
I will take back what I said about Iowa if you can put it over the top.
Heck, he'll even support ethanol subsidies.
Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. I'll fill my whole car with ethanol, no gas.
I'll put literally just unethanol pieces of corn in my gas tank.
I will drink ethanol on the air next time.
Hey,
if
it's
you guys
better
vote for
than
Rand.
better than the water in where is that? In
If
Detroit?
Rand Paul wins Iowa, I will drink a glass of ethanol.
Pussies drink it. Real men freebase it.
God, I hope he doesn't win. It's going to be. I really don't want to go
But
back to that word.
Rand, especially his criminal justice answer, I decided right then and I'm like, I'm sending him another donation. But then when it got to the,
The Life and Conception Act.
yeah, I started to. I don't know now.
You put
You started
the wallet
deleting
back
zeros.
away.
He deleted zeros from his.
I'm not
from
sure.
his page.
It's lucky I didn't click the donate button yet. I'm.
He's just sitting
I
there.
don't know.
He's
It
thinking
was-
about it.
Yeah,
So,
great performance though, and I mean I feel like he has to say that to those people there. So
Well, let's just talk about that abortion answer for a minute, mostly because I missed it because I had an issue with my live stream for a moment. So why don't, JB, well, can you weigh in on what he said for the abortion answer? Do you remember that?
I was pretty disappointed with what he said with that. But before I go into my disappointment, I want to praise him. I want to give him a applause
Hey, da-dun. I'm not going to
for being pretty much the first politician that I've ever heard acknowledge how Americans are basically fined to death in this country, especially lower income Americans, and all these fines that they accrue from doing the most absurd of things. And he actually said this in a Republican debate, and it got an applause, and I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's where a lot of the anger in Ferguson came from. I mean, regardless of the incident that actually set things off, that anger comes from being fined to death. I mean, that is really where this all stems from. Being fined, getting into the court system, not being able to get out of it, trying to make your way in life, and just being crushed by the local governments. So, I mean, he's definitely the only Republican addressing this at all.
Oh, without a doubt. There's a death spiral. I was reading this article, I think it was in the LA Times, because we have insane parking fees here. Like if you get something like $100 sometimes for a parking ticket. So there was once a woman, she couldn't pay it. You go to court, they say, okay, this thing, pay it off by this time. Miss the date because you don't have enough money. Then the fees, something like triple or quadruple. Then there's interest on top of it. So the time you got this $90 parking ticket, and you could finally look at the bill that was all told, it was like $800. It's impossible for these people to pay off.
Insane.
Dude, we just had a blizzard here in D.C., and all the cars are like buried and like iced to the ground, couldn't be moved. They just went around, ticketed them all, and like made like thousands and thousands of dollars.
Saw that. They should mass protest paying those
Keep
tickets.
it classy, DC.
Seriously, someone should organize a campaign. Everyone that got a ticket that day, do not pay. Like, that's what I would do if I lived there. But I would never live in D.C. Thank God. So back to this abortion answer, because I miss it, so I don't even know what he said. So, JB, you want to fill me in and why you were disappointed?
Well, the moderator basically said that Rand, and rightfully so, and as far as he stands position-wise, said that the issue of abortion should be left to the states. And when pushed on it, the moderator said, so if a liberal state wanted to allow abortion, are you okay with that? And being a Republican nominee and being a Republican candidate and wanting the nomination, he can't outright say yes, which is probably what he believes. I firmly believe that's what he believes, but he kind of danced around the issue and never really answered the question about saying that, yes, if a liberal state wants to allow abortion, I'm okay with that. He had to toe the party
I don't
line.
think he is okay with that, though.
No, for me, I think he actually, from what I remember, and this is what it really pissed me off, he actually said, oh, well, my life and conception bill would deal with that on a federal level. Right. So he said, yeah, states' rights should have it, but I'm dealing with it on a federal level.
It's separate bills he's talking about, kind of separate things.
But that's basically double talk. That either you leave it to the states or it's a federal issue. You can't have it both ways.
Exactly.
It's impossible to have it both ways.
And he is politically sort of trying to have it both ways in this circumstance, for sure.
Yeah, it's a shameful thing, and it really is going to be, it's going to be his Achilles heel, because when it comes to independent voters, and especially kids of college age, is where so much of support is supposedly coming from, that's a big issue. If he's saying, oh, you know what, no, you can't get an abortion if, as soon as this kid comes to conception age or is conceived, no more abortions,
Conception age.
Conception age, yeah.
1 second.
Literally 1 millisecond in. That you can't have abortions. I mean, all that college sport, they're going to be like, ooh, maybe not. Maybe not, Randy. See you later.
It's true. But at least you wish he would just be consistent, even if you can disagree with him. But he is kind of waffling a little bit to me, it seems. But
exactly. That's why I felt like his initial position is probably the best position for him. He probably has ethical objections towards abortion, and that's perfectly fine. I would say I do as well. But I feel like it's not my place to be telling other people what they should be doing. And leaving it as a state's issue is basically like a get out of jail free card.
Well, but in fairness, I think
he didn't want to stick to his guns on that point. He wanted to toe the party line, and that's what I was particularly not pleased about.
Chris Wallace did emphasize, the issue is that, some people see abortion as murder. So in that context, it's not really about leaving things, people to their own ethical decisions, because if we actually said some states can legalize murder, well, everyone would be like, well, no, we can't just legalize murder. So if people do view it as murder, I think that's where the issue lies.
Well, isn't capital punishment legalized murder anyway? Isn't war legalized murder?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't police violence against citizens, like in L.A., where they shot a woman because they thought they shot 2 women that were in a truck because the cops were hunting someone else. They shot the truck up, they shot the woman up, and then no charges. That's, they didn't die in this instance, but oftentimes legalized murder. So let's just say the term legalized murder is, I think, irrelevant in this context because it's so often abused anyway by the state. One more thing, too, about Rand I wanted to mention is I thought he had great points about Assad. He was one of the few people on stage, or maybe the only person on stage, actually, that said, if we oust Assad, if we spend any time on him, all it's going to do is cause regime change. And essentially that regime change would be a vacuum. There's nobody there just because of civil war. So why do we want to upset that region? Why do we want to completely destabilize all of the infrastructure, all of the region there, and just allow that vacuum to be taken up by most likely ISIS or another group that would be not desirable to the United States? So, good job on that, Rand.
All right, but overall, I think we would all agree that Rand had a solid performance. It was a different atmosphere not having Trump there, and I think he did as good a job as he could, minus the abortion question, which, was an awkward moment for everybody.
Yeah, still could have gotten a little bit more opportunity. I mean, it was still heavily Cruz and Rubio.
But I thought Cruz, all right, let's just move to Cruz. Why not?
Cruz it up.
Because I thought he had a rough night. He seemed like he was getting a little flustered. He had one moment he kind of threatened to walk off the debate stage.
He did. He was trying to trumpet.
And he was basically accusing Chris Wallace of pitting them all against each other. He's like, you're saying Rand said this about Ted said this about Marco. But the questions they were asking were substantive about the issues, at this point. So to me, he just seemed like a whiny little brat who didn't really want to answer questions.
Damn well right. Well, I loved how they called him out on early on the audit the Fed topic, where he was kind of danced around the fact that he didn't even vote for it. He couldn't vote. He's like, I support it. When I'm president, I'll audit the Fed, but never mind the fact that I missed the fucking vote while I'm a senator running for president. So I love that he got called out on that a little bit. But yeah, I agree. He was kind of dancing a little bit, and he definitely was flustered out there.
Those are my thoughts on Ted Cruz too.
Well, I'll tell you,
my thoughts are that I can't believe we have spent so much time that we had to the point that we had to do a whole podcast about this guy to debunk the fact that people were calling him a liberty candidate, and he's just not. And to me, he seemed like he just had no substance here tonight. I mean, he said, hey, I'm the one that's going to kill ISIS. I'm the one that's going to keep you safe. You're darn right I'll talk about carpet bombing. You're darn right I'll talk about making the sand glow at night. I'll do whatever we got to do. He sounded, once again, like the most... Well, not once again. I think I said Jeb actually picked it up last time. But to me, he's the neocon of the night.
He was. Yeah, he was. Well, you know what? I will give him credit on one good thing. Because we're saying one good thing.
Don't do that.
No, he was...
Okay,
I thought he had pretty good things to say about healthcare reform. He had pretty substantive answers. He had a plan for it. Because they're saying, what are you going to do if you repeal Obamacare? I liked his answers in that it's not all the way we want it to go.
Unless the answer is end medical licensing and disband the AMA.
You know that.
I don't take you seriously.
Even Rand Paul can't get that done. But
he's talked about it. He'll even talk about licensing. He'll talk about this stuff.
Yeah, well, in his book, he talks about it too. But Ted, it was some steps forward, and I also thought it was a little bit adorable for Teddy Cruz, Severus Cruz, who we compared to Severus Snape in a previous Rand Pluses and Minuses. I loved it. He was like, they trust me. Like, nobody would even second your motions, and it made me kind of shine favor light on him. I just imagine him like, second anybody? Second anybody?
Severus Cruz.
Guess it's about time for me to hit the old dusty tray.
Expelliarmus!
So, poor Severus.
Well, I've regained my senses, and I have a comment on Ted Cruz.
All right.
Well, with this no-fly zone issue that continuously comes up in these Republican debates, who are they really trying to fight? Are they trying to fight Syria, or are they trying to fight ISIS? Because last I checked, ISIS doesn't have planes. Am I wrong in this?
The answer is... Well, okay, in reality, the real answer is that they're trying to fight Assad. They're pretending that they want to fight ISIS, but that's kind of BS. I mean,
that's what I'm gathering, because Assad has planes, ISIS does not. So what would
Russia has planes
do against ISIS? They don't have planes.
Russia has planes, but Russia is aligned with Assad. So really, the only people that have planes are Assad and Russia. So if we're talking about no-fly zones, we're talking about shooting down Syrian planes who are trying to bomb ISIS and Russian planes who are also trying to bomb ISIS. So it's not an anti-ISIS policy to have no-fly zones. It might. I mean, you can make other arguments for it, maybe, but it's not that. And all they talk about is ISIS, and then they talk about no-fly zones, which is fighting the people fighting ISIS. It just goes to, it's another example of our just schizophrenic foreign policy. That never makes sense, really. Because I used to think it was conspiracies, and I'm sure there are levels of conspiracies within it, but I really think there's just so many opposing forces within the Pentagon, within the government, within groups that lobby for certain policies that the policies become schizophrenic because there are all these forces pulling different ways. Or, as Alex Jones might say, it's all New World Order plans and we'll take the oil and reshape the Middle East.
Or as Joel McHale might say in the recent X-Files, which I highly recommend.
Yeah.
He is an Alex Jones character.
What would he say? Are you going to complete that sentence?
Yes.
What would he say?
He was the same crap. Same just conspiracy theory
with a
stuff.
less grovelly voice.
Conspiracy theory stuff. But yeah, it is insane, and it boggles the mind how so many of these candidates, including Hillary Clinton, are calling for the no-fly zone. When, as we said, it makes zero sense. There's no logic behind it other than, hey, let's go fight ISIS.
There's like three people.
Assad and sort of war.
There's literally like three people not calling for them: Bernie Sanders, Rand Paul, and Donald Trump.
DT.
The 3 least warmongers of all candidates.
Yeah.
That's a fact. I mean, in terms of their statements, we can argue once they get into office, the colors change. That's all totally possible. I'll even say it's possible with all 3 of them. Who the hell knows? But in terms of their actual statements, I mean, after Rand and Bernie, Donald is the next least to war hockey.
Yep. Actually, I thought Donald was even higher than Bernie.
He might have been. Actually, he might have been. I thought it was
Rand and then Trump.
I think it was. I think you're right. Because even, Bernie's like, well, but I'll pretty much do whatever wars the Democrats want eventually. Basically, pretty much what he said without saying that. Anything else to say about Ted?
Nah.
No.
He's dead to me. He was never alive to me, so I guess he's not really dead. He's always just been a walking neocon zombie.
In the Cruising and Bruising podcast.
I mean, I've been wary of Ted Cruz since Rand Paul endorsed him in 2012. I remember because he was running against a Ron Paul libertarian, but Rand and Ron both came out, I think, due to the influence of some people in Campaign for Liberty for Ted Cruz. And even then, I was like, I don't know about this. I don't like this guy. Something's weird about him. So he's shifty. I hope he doesn't do well in Iowa. Hopefully this debate hurts him because I thought he did not come across well at all here, and this was in Iowa. And maybe some people at home heard the cheers for Rand Paul and heard the people in the crowd, and maybe they thought, maybe we should think about this Rand Paul guy a little more. Maybe. Now, if anyone's wondering why they haven't heard from Howie, he's not dead. He's just his computer, I think, exploded from all the either the whiskey or the Liberty talk or
just the excitement of another GOP debate.
The excitement, yes, because there are indeed more of these. There's a lot. There's actually a good number more of these, even once we're well into campaign season. So this is pretty much never going to end. So let's touch on these last 2 candidates, and we'll bounce. But man, it's so hard to choose between these 2. I'm going to save the cute little puppy dog for last. So why don't we touch on John Kasich? And I'm just going to ask both of you guys: is there anything to discuss about John Kasich other than the fact that everything must relate to being governor of Ohio? And he didn't actually mention balancing the budget tonight, which it just used to be his go-to. But
you stole my point. I was going to say he seems to be baffled by any question that is not directly referred to whether or not he was governor of Ohio. And also, he made very clear, this was maybe my favorite point in the debate other than Rand talking about justice reform, was when they asked John Kasich about the back doors for cell phone technology and for getting into computers. Oh, God. He literally, you could tell he had no idea what they were talking about, and he had no answer for it because he goes, well, we shouldn't talk about these things.
I really shouldn't. I really, thank you for the question. I really should not be discussing these matters of in fact, if we say the word encryption, ISIS might be able to get backdoor. So we should just talk.
He's like, I'm not allowed to talk about anything that's not faxing.
Maybe after the show we can talk a little bit, but no, this is the ISIS has the access to the stream, so we cannot talk about this.
JB, you had the same thought.
Well, I actually interpreted that in a different way. When I heard him say that, to me it sounded like backdoor security and cybersecurity is something that we shouldn't be discussing in the open. It should be like an Oval Office thing. It should be a secret thing, like an NSA thing. And the American public shouldn't know that there are backdoor loopholes or entrances for the federal government to basically spy on us. That's the vibe I got from his answer to that.
Oh, so he's arguably worse.
That's what
it's more insidious than a happy-go-lucky, silly
He's
Kasich.
like, we shouldn't be talking about this. We should just do this, and no one should know about it, and basically screw everybody.
He's like, back
That's
doors.
That's what I got from it.
We'll do those, but we won't tell you guys. So let's just move on.
Maybe it's because it looks like he cut bubblegum out of his hair before every debate, but I'm going to say he was just too dumb to know what they were talking about.
Because he said specifically these issues should not be discussed.
Yeah.
Which means that as president, I'm going to talk to Google, I'm going to go talk to Apple, and I'm going to be able to do these things through my intelligence agencies, and nobody will know about it, and we won't have a discussion about it. We're just going to do it.
Well, I don't know. You might be right. And I was going to say, who cares?
I do think that's what he's saying. I was joking about how it came across. But no, I totally agree that that's what he was saying. He's saying, this is just something we do, and, don't worry about it.
I think that's what he might have been saying. But I think when you're looking at him, I think, honestly, it was just a dodge.
No, he also just looks clueless all the time. But he looks happy to be there or frantic to be there.
Hey, he's polling 11% in some polls.
I don't understand.
I don't either. It's got to be people that are exactly like him that are just looking at him like, looking at
I would be very uncomfortable up there, so I can relate to this.
Yeah, I also don't know about things, and I also was governor of Ohio. he's getting a lot of support from governors of Ohio across this great nation.
The governor of Ohio, former governors of Ohio for Kasich is a huge
More
group
than
on
you
Facebook.
think. LeBron James keeps
3
getting upset
members.
with them, and they keep having to leave, just like his coaches.
All right, we only got one guy to touch on here, and I mean, I'm developing a soft spot for him because to me he's not a real candidate, but he is because he does well in polls still. So I guess he is a real candidate. But Ben Carson continues to say nothing of substance and
Literally.
really nothing at all. So what do you think about Ben Carson, Brian? Are you enamored?
I like you said, I don't understand. He literally says, like, I remember one time I wrote down, he's like, we need different solutions for things. It's basically, that was essentially what it was. He's like, doesn't say what they are, just we need to do different stuff. And then I also remember he was telling some story or trying to think of something, and he literally starts talking, and then he closes his eyes and pauses like he's trying desperately to remember or think of what the next word might possibly be that he could put behind the word in front of it. Like, literally, he's putting together sentences on the spot with no idea where they're going.
All right, and next word, ISIS.
That's
After
carpet
that,
bombing.
neurosurgery.
Yeah. So I'm baffled by his popularity, and I have no faith in the man.
JB, any words of wisdom on this character, Ben Carson, or can we move on?
I have to assume that his popularity stems entirely from the fact that he's a Washington outsider, quote unquote, that he's not a politician because, as you said, he says absolutely nothing of substance whatsoever.
I mean, neither does Trump really, but he does it way more effectively. Like,
Yeah, he doesn't
he's
conviction,
also
at
a
least.
Washington outsider, so you
Right.
can get away with saying absolutely nothing as long as you've never held political office before. That's what I'm getting from these debates.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
the-
I love. Okay.
I'm just saying, yeah, it's the same exact people they're appealing to. Trump is just good at it, and Carson is bumbling his way through it, but bumbling your way through it still, I guess, gets you, some percentage of the polls.
Well, he's still really heavily playing that I'm a neurosurgeon card. I remember he's trying to make some sort of tie between doing new things and amazing things in government. He's like, well, I've done amazing things with the human body, and I can do that with government. It's like, I don't see how those are related, Ben.
I've been woken up at 2 a.m. to make decisions. I can do this job, no problem.
One time I woke up, I just made pancakes because I wanted them. That's all.
Let several people die that day. Put their blood on my cakes.
I put the phone on vibrate, and I put it under my pillow, made some pancakes. 3
Can you
deaths.
imagine Ben Carson telling you how he's going to do your neurosurgery, just closing his eyes and just
So-
slowly speaking?
What I'm going to... sorry. I've been up since 2. All right. So what I'm going to do before we sign off... Now, many of you that are listening to this in your podcast feed are hearing this on Monday, which is the day of the Iowa caucuses. So many of you are probably just glued to your news coverage while listening to the sweet sounds of our voices dissecting the last debate. But I want to do a little prediction time, and we'll do this quickly, rapid-fire style. Top 3 in Iowa, and if you want to go that far, top 3 in New Hampshire. And I'm going to start with Howie, because he posted this in the live blog, even though his computer exploded. And so Howie's prediction are Trump first in Iowa, Cruz second in Iowa, Paul third in Iowa. And in New Hampshire, he's got Trump first, Cruz second, Kasich third. And Kasich is actually polling pretty well in New Hampshire. So those are Howie's predictions. JB, what do you think? What are we going to see later today for some listeners of this show in Iowa?
I would go Iowa. I would probably say Trump first, Paul second, and then Cruz.
All right.
Because I can't imagine the noise that he's making about his boots on the ground in Iowa are just smoke. But then again, the polling for Trump is far too high to say that he won't win Iowa. I'd say he comes in second.
But you think it's too much, no matter what kind of ground game he has, it's too much to cover the love for Trump that's just out there en masse, and that people
That's
will
what
really
I
go
think.
out for Trump.
I hope I'm wrong, but that's what I predict.
All right. What about New Hampshire? Do you have any thoughts about that? Obviously, it's going to be affected by the results of Iowa in some way, but what do you think is going to happen in New Hampshire?
New Hampshire, I haven't really thought of so much. I'd probably say that Trump takes that as well. And probably, I can't imagine Cruz finishing very high in New Hampshire, Republican or not. I'd probably give Paul second there, too.
All right, so that's 2 seconds for Paul. And frankly, I think that would be pretty damn good. I mean, if he got that 2 second places far higher than people put him in the polls, I think he still probably doesn't have a chance of winning, but not a bad position, all things considered. I think if you told his camp that's what would happen, they'd be okay with that. But so we'll see. Brian, I know you already made a prediction this week.
You know what? I'm going to change it, I think.
I was going to change mine too. So we're flip-flopping like Marco and Jeb over here.
Yeah. I'm going to change it because I was going to initially have I was going to say Ted Cruz is going to win Iowa. Now, in light of his recent
over Trump, even
that's what I was initially going to say. However, before this debate, considering his stand against the blend, against the ethanol subsidies,
the blend's going to kill him.
The blend wall. I think that's going to kill him. So I think he's going to drop down. I am actually bumping Rand up one notch from where I had him at. I think Rand will actually win Iowa.
Wow.
I'm changing it.
Defeat the Trump machine.
The support he had, and I think he's trending upwards.
And the media will report it as such, and they will say Rand Paul shocks the world.
I believe so.
Wow.
So Rand, I'm going Rand.
We're going to have to
and then Cruz will still have a stronger showing enough, but he's not going to get first, second. I'm saying it's going to be Rand. Rand
Trump
first,
second?
Trump second, Cruz third. Okay. And then New Hampshire, I'm going to say that will be Trump, Kasich, Paul.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to skip to that. That was exactly what I was going to say for New Hampshire. I was going to say Trump. I don't understand it, but Kasich seems to do well there. And New Hampshire's weird. So I'm going to say Trump, Kasich, Paul for New Hampshire. Actually, I could see Paul finishing in like 4th or 5th there, to be honest. I could see Trump, Kasich, Carson even. Because New Hampshire's weird. Yeah. You always think they're going to do one thing and be the rebels, but then they're not. But then they're still picking weird guys. It's just.
I thought they were supposed to be the Liberty State.
They're supposed to be, but it never works out that way.
Yeah. They like to crow about how their gun laws are the best in the nation, and then they elect the people that are just still second line.
So I originally, I believe, on this past week's Rand Paul pluses and minuses predicted a 3rd place for Paul. I believe I had the same prediction as Howie: Trump, Cruz, and then Paul. I'm going to switch the last two, though. I think, to me, Cruz, I don't know. I think Cruz is going to have a lot of support, but I think Paul's ground game might be enough to overcome it if you combine that with his debate performance and the clear support he has in Iowa. To me, I really think he has a chance to tick up to second, but I am not as optimistic as Brian. I don't think he can overcome the extreme popularity of Donald Trump. I just don't think it's going to happen in the next 3 days. I think if Trump was going to fizzle, he would have fizzled already. And I kind of think he's unstoppable. And it's going to be the craziest election season in a long time. Because either he's going to flame out, and that's going to be crazy, or he's going to dominate, and that's going to be crazy. So it's going to be crazy. And that's why we have to keep doing shows talking about it.
We're going to find out if missing this debate is going to hurt him or help him. Because it might, if he could take one on the chin, but so far as Iowa's concerned, missing this debate could have an adverse effect.
Iowans are fickle. They may be like, screw that guy, huh?
Yeah,
Didn't want to come to our debate?
Don't come to Iowa?
But he was still there. He was I think he was in town doing his little veterans
some other thing,
rally.
Yeah.
Because
call me biased, but am I the only one who thinks that the only reason he skipped this debate is because he saw how well that worked for Iran?
I don't discount that. I said the same thing. I said that Rand laid out the battle plan for that, and Trump is following it.
I think it's a factor. I mean, I don't know. It's hard. I mean, Trump would never admit he took a cue from Rand Paul, but I think it made him maybe possibly less nervous about skipping it, especially because he saw that Paul qualified after skipping it, so it clearly didn't hurt Rand Paul. If anything, it did help him. I mean, he got on. We talked about it on last week's show on Rand Paul's and minuses. It got him on all these shows, and clearly it got him at least to the point in the polls where they had to let him in. So.
Yeah, there is a big difference, though, between an underdog rejecting it and getting support for doing something the first time, and then Trump doing it as as you said, a kind of follow-along, biting the scruff off Rand's battle plan there. And also, the fact that Trump kind of comes across as fickle, he's going to lose a lot of support from women because he's saying, screw Megyn Kelly. So some people might say, okay, great, yeah, screw Fox News. But a lot of people will be like, what the hell? He thinks he's so arrogant, he can skip this debate. He can, just pick and choose what he does. So
now the interesting thing is if Trump does fail in Iowa, even though the polls put a couple guys high, I don't see anyone as super strong after Trump. I really don't. I think Ted Cruz is kind of weak. I mean, they've all seen fluctuations of support. Rubio, Cruz, Carson on that second level, Paul to some extent. So I think the field is kind of wide open if Trump surprisingly does fizzle out. So if that happens, I mean, this is the craziest election season already, I think, in a long time. So, and it's a large part to Donald Trump, and some part to Bernie Sanders, and in some part to the fascination that is Ben Carson. But much like Ben Carson, I'm getting a little sleepy, so we are going to wind things down here. This coming Wednesday, look for another interview. We're going to return to our interview format. I know we've been bombarded with debate recap shows with Ram pluses and minuses, but we're going to get back to our roots a little bit and try to squeeze some of these interviews in whenever we can. I've got a great guy, a great writer, Andrew Sirios on, and we are going to destroy some memes. That's right. We're going to look at the 90% tax thing. We're going to look at income inequality. We're going to look at all the sort of things you see plastered all over the internet in meme form that are meant to be actual policy prescriptions. So we're going to break some of those down. Until then, guys, why don't you join me here? Live long
And live free. Up next, the God like Rubio.